Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillahi amma ba'd. If there are any questions pertaining to the class or other than the class, then inshallah ta'ala we'll try to take them now with the time that we have. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. AP Philippi, what are the Muslims' responsibilities regarding global warming? Like Muslims' responsibilities regarding the earth, regarding the ozone layer, the atmosphere, etc., is the responsibility concerning the body. It's an amana, it's a trust. Allah created the earth for our benefit, our usage, and it is our job to responsibly use the earth and utilize it, to responsibly utilize Allah's blessings. And anything which is going to harm the way that Allah made things, the cycle, then it is our job to try our best to prevent that. Speaking out against it, stopping it, not using a certain product, whatever it may be. And of course, there are details with regards to that. There are details with regards to that, okay? Because some people consider cutting down a tree to be disrespecting the earth or misusing the earth. And that's not Islam. Okay, and of course the shaitan, he comes in and he whispers and he tries to play many games. We have the concept of the different people who came and they did evil acts, horrible, atrocious acts to the indigenous inhabitants of this continent. Whether you call them Native Americans or Indians or First People, they did heinous crimes to them, all right? And of course, most of those horrible acts were done in the name of Christianity and under the justification of the cross. And of course, there was a major clash between those two different worlds. The inhabitants and those who came from the giant wooden islands. That's what they called them, their ships, a wooden island. They didn't even understand the concept of a ship coming from Europe. And they had no idea with regards to the guns, steel, and germs. All right. Okay. With regards to the weapons, the swords, the muskets, okay, the cannons, the helmets, the breastplates, and of course the diseases and the sicknesses. All right. But many people, they don't realize the trick of the shaitan in this. They say, yeah, the native people were upon Islam. They were upon the fitrah. The Christian people came, blah, 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 so on and so forth. We need it, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the concept of, and I'm not saying all native people believe this, but it's a fact that many did, that the earth belongs to no one. No one can own any part of the earth. You cannot touch this. You cannot cut this. This is off limits, so on and so forth. Is that Islam? Or was what the European Christians came with closer to Islam? The concept of buying and selling and the concept of utilizing. The trees are there. It's a huge, lush force. And it's meant for the benefit of men. All right? So I'm not saying all the natives believe that. And I'm not saying all of the Europeans believe that correctly either. But you get the point I'm trying to make. Is that Allah made the earth for us. So some people, they think and feel cutting a tree or mining this cave or taking these fish is destroying the earth. And that's not Islamically accurate. Abusing it, different story. Chemicals, pollution, that's different story. Being greedy, making a holocaust against an animal, such as the different people who went further west, the frontiersmen. They made a buffalo holocaust in which they systematically tried to make the bison or the buffalo extinct for several reasons. They made a holocaust against wolves. They hunted the wolf. They persecuted the wolf so viciously in which it became almost extinct for its pelts. They made a holocaust against the mountain lions, the cougars, the pumas. They just viciously killed and hunted the animals with so much greed because those pelts, those furs were worth so much money. You talk about Canada and North America and how they would ship all of those furs over to Europe. So being greedy, sucking the earth dry, leaving no trees, no animals, no fish, that's not Islam. And on the other side of the balance, not cutting the tree because it has some holy spirits there or it's sacred by the ancestors, that's also batil. And that is not Islam. So be careful. All right. So that's the Muslim's responsibility with regards to the earth and the environment. Wallahu alam, but don't get stuck on the glue trap is the point. Don't get caught in the batil. And there's a lot of batil laced in those different movements. Green earth. A lot of batil, and Allah knows best. Question comes from F.A. Michigan, USA. How to deal with depression? SubhanAllah, obviously, there are no coincidences or accidents in Islam. When I got the question, before I finished the question, I was actually looking at an atlas of Lake Michigan. Right. One of the 5 Great Lakes. How to deal with depression. Adinu nasiha. The religion is sincere advice. That sincere advice is to be given, and that sincere advice is to be sought. Giving it and seeking it. Also listening to it and following it. So I would advise you to get the proper therapy. The therapy doesn't mean that you take pills. Or it doesn't have to mean that you learn from someone who's a disciple of the freed way of thinking when it comes to mental illnesses and dreams and stuff. But just the concept of talking to a Muslim therapist. And they sit down with you, explain to you, you talk with them, they help you out, so on and so forth. And they help you navigate through that depression. So adinu nasiha, with regards to asking for it and giving it. And nasiha has to be traded, and it is your job to seek it. So that's my advice, is to talk to a Muslim therapist, to speak with them, okay? And bidna ta'ala, they will help you, give you a tailor-made solution to your specific depression. And may Allah remove it from you. And we've spoken on this many times before. Wallahu ta'ala alam. The next question states, Salam Mufti from Riyadh, KSA, keep doing what you're doing. Alaikum salam to Jazakallah khairan Abu Yusuf. Barakallah fiqh. AS from Harlem, New York. Salam alaikum Mufti. How do you get rid of what if thoughts? Similar to the previous question and the previous answer. Let's talk to a therapist. With regards to that extreme anxiety, that waswas, that OCD, that what if. You need to speak to a therapist and have someone talk with you, because these problems didn't come out of thin air. And they're not going to go away, in most cases, out of thin air. But it's something pertaining to your upbringing. It's something pertaining to your something that was inherited, something that happened to you that made you think and feel that way. It could be a chemical imbalance in your body, in your mind. You need a professional Islamic therapist with regards to get rid of those things. And Allah knows best. Next question says, Muhammad Bushra, where you coming from? AR, Queens, New York, is someone who makes their attention for fast in the middle of the day rewarded for the whole day. We answered that question earlier. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, it's permissible according to those scholars to make a yajuzu siyam al-nafli biniyatin min al-nahari qabla al-zawal. You're allowed to make your intention for fasting before dhuhr time for the voluntary fasts, as long as you didn't eat, drink, or have intercourse. Wallahu alam. AP Philly, what if Steve Seaman drowning in trouble? Are we required to try to save them? You should try to save them for sure if you can. MD Atib, Telangana, India. If I do sujood forgetfulness and then forget again and start reciting the tashahhud again after the sujood, what should I do? If I do sujood of forgetfulness and then forget again and start reciting the tashahhud, well, some scholars say you can make the tashahhud. The correct view is that you don't make the tashahhud when you make the sujood as-sahw. Alright, if you do it again, don't make another sujood as-sahw. Just finish your prayer like that. MD Atlanta, Georgia, assalamu alaikum. Is it permissible to smile while advising, correcting someone about something serious? Alaikum salam to Allah. I mean, sometimes smiling is uncontrollable. You can't control it. You may be in a happy mood. Okay, and smiling doesn't always mean that you're not serious. A person can smile and be serious. Some people get embarrassed and shamed and shy and they smile, and it's something extremely serious. What's important is you give this solid advice, whatever, regardless of what your face looks like. And you should try your best to keep your face in an appropriate appearance when you're speaking. If you're talking about something fun and easygoing, smile. You're talking about something serious, try to keep a serious face. You understand? And Allah knows best. Listen, guys, we've been on it too long now. You got to mention your first initial, last initial, city, and state. And if not, we won't be able to answer your question. HMH, Manchester, UK. Assalamu alaikum. If one doesn't have a teacher from learning hadith directly but has some basic Arabic, can we read books in Arabic about hadith sciences to get a flavor? Alaikum salam, without a question. Rather, when you're overseas with the scholars of hadith, you still read by yourself. And we've been saying this for years now, brothers and sisters. Sitting with the ulama is not the only way to obtain knowledge. You sit with the scholars, you sit with the professors, and you sit in the library and read by yourself, with yourself, for yourself, without no one over you. And anything that's problematic, you write it down and take it to your teacher or your sheikh. Anything that you want further clarification on, you read it upon your sheikh. But a major part of the Hadith disciple school of thought is self-teaching and sitting for hours reading in the library. You have to read yourself. Everything is not going to be spoon-fed to you. All right? And Allah knows best. Barcelona, Spain. Assalamu alaikum. Initials. Jazakallahu khayran. Hisham bin Shu'aib. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. Some of the imams here say, Sallu salata muwaddi'in. Mudda'in. Before prayer, is that from the Sunnah? What about saying to make the sufuf if we are separated for Corona? Barakallahu feek. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless all the Muslims in Spain, in Barcelona, Madrid, and other parts as well. Ameen. It's not from the Sunnah to say that. Sallu salata muwaddi'in. That should not be said. That should not be done. There's no authentic text to prove that. And the niyya is in the heart. That should not be said. And even if a person said it once, يعني لا ليس من السنة الحفاظ على هذا الشيء. يعني نقول هذا الشيء دائما وأبدا قبل أن نكبر. هذا ليس من السنة. That's not from the Sunnah. Secondly is, with regards to the Corona, tell the people to straighten their roles, even with the Corona, even with it. And perhaps they can still benefit from it. And we cannot allow this, يعني, all-seeing, all-hearing, ever-powerful, dominating virus that has these supernatural powers to change our sunnah and to make things from our way to become extinct and non-existent. That's extremely dangerous. And perhaps this is one of the biggest fears that we should have from this corona thing. And that is removing the sunnah and causing the sunnah to be forgotten about. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Wallahu alam. This will be our last question tonight. Question comes from Assalamu alaikum, initials YO, Ottawa, Canada. What should we do when we enter Jama'ah and we don't know which rak'ah we've entered into Tashahhud? You sit down. Alaikum salam. Sit down with the Imam, and if it's obvious that it is a second or last Tashahhud, you just say Subhanallah to yourself. Say Subhanallah to yourself. Don't sit there silently. And when it's clear that that it is the Tashahhud and it's not your Tashahhud, sit with the Imam, say Subhanallah, don't get up and do not make an additional Tashahhud. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdihi rasulihi nabina wa imamina Muhammad.